start, but I'm happy that we're all here. So thank you for being here at my Cosplay Competitions Explained panel. I'm Yaya Han, and I have been a cosplayer for over 18 years now, which just means that I discovered cosplay 18 years ago and fell into it as a newbie kid, and then grew up in this community and participated in various manners at conventions. So I started off competing because, 15, 16, 17 years ago, there was really no way for you to be a cosplayer at a convention without competing. These days, with social media, with so much cosplay programming, with the fact that we can, very easily take photos of each other with smartphones and affordable cameras, there are so many ways to express yourself as a cosplayer. And when you go to a convention, you really can make a choice whether or not you want to compete or not. And it seems like these days there's so many competitions, then so many different types of competitions that it can be kind of overwhelming. And the more that I have spoken to people around, not just the US, but around the world, the more I realize that we want to, I want to give you guys an insight to what it's like to join the competitive world of cosplay, what it means to become a competitor, and that it doesn't have to be so daunting or so intimidating to want to, do cosplay in a competitive manner. I think the misconception these days is that unless you have a giant robot suit or really intricately sewn dress, that there's no reason for you to compete. But I hope that through this panel you can get an idea of what kind of competitions are out there, and that it can maybe prepare you and give you maybe a new reason to join competing. Before I start, has anybody in this room competed before in a contest? See, very few hands, but kudos to all of you. You're all awesome, and I hope that you will consider doing it again. How many of you guys want to compete, have maybe the interest in future competitions? Okay, a few more hands, very good. All right, so I hope to get through this pretty quickly so I can answer some questions for you. So if you have anything very specific that you want to know that I didn't touch on, let me know. This is what I'm here for. All right, so first of all, there are various types of cosplay competitions. They're not all made the same, and it really depends on the convention. The convention chooses what kind of contest they want to hold in the capacity of their stage and their convention. So we have walk-ons that are fashion show style. We have craftsmanship only contests. There's some contests where craftsmanship and skit meaning performance-based aspects are both in play. And last, I want to talk about international contests. So to look at these things a bit closer, and I'm sorry for the formatting, I swear it looked better. Like, I have a Mac, so things look different on a PC, I'm sorry. But anyway, so walk-on contests, they are very common at comic conventions from what I have seen and from what I have judged. And that just means you can sign up on the same day, and you don't have to worry whether your costume was made by yourself or if it was purchased. It's more of a way for people to simply participate and for you to put on like a fashion show style event, something to give the audience like just a variety. And because it is the same day setup, really you can have people from all walks of life and all different types of experiences entering. Some people that have never made a costume before, and other people who have been veterans for 10 years. And the whole point is that it's supposed to be fun and unrehearsed, very spontaneous, and it's just about giving everybody a chance to come on stage and be the character for a few seconds. Those contests are a bit difficult to judge, I will say, because if you don't have an idea how the costume was made, how can you compare them? So you have to kind of go by what you see on stage, and then it's maybe not as it's a bit more difficult. Craftsmanship only contests, these are contests that really only focus on how the costume was made. These contests are held all over the world in either anime conventions or pop culture conventions or comic conventions. It depends on the event that wants to hold them. They require a specific time set aside ahead of the contest where the contestants meet the judges in a separate space and show them the costumes and go through the process of how they made their costumes. A lot of these contests have skill divisions because you end up having people, again, competing from various experiences. And so it just makes sense to put them in various skill divisions so you kind of have a little better of a chance, you know, like as a newcomer. And I'll talk about skill divisions a little more later. Some of them can be, you know, group entries or single entries. And usually there's advanced sign up required because these contests really take a little more planning. And for you as a competitor, you know, it takes going on the website and checking up on the information, signing up, and then having a correspondence via email with the coordinators so you know how the day is going to play out for the craftsmanship contest. And that means that when the stage show actually happens, that you don't have to put on a performance, that it's just for you to show your costume in front of an audience and to show how you move in it. And then the majority of the points, or I should say all of the points, really are, you know, chosen based on how the costume was made. So for example, the Crown Cosplay Championship that is happening tomorrow here is a craftsmanship only contest. Craftsmanship and skit-based contests are probably the most well-rounded and the most involved type of contests. So for these contests, really, you need to be prepared on all levels. So not only do you have to show up for the craftsmanship judging, but you also have to prepare a performance. And that means that you have to prepare, you know, some sort of a skit, you have to prepare some kind of music, some sort of a story, and they can be very challenging, but these types of contests are the most exciting. They sometimes have the most stakes behind them, the biggest prizes, because they are so involved and advanced. And these contests can be set up either as a single or group categories. That's up to the convention. I've seen both. Occasionally there are skill divisions. That's again, like, there's unfortunately not a universal standard, so the convention has to decide, you know, do we have enough people entering, and, you know, is it worth it to set up skill divisions? They also definitely require advanced signups, and sometimes they require people to submit a baseline of like what kind of costumes they're planning to make, what kind of skit they're planning to make, like a brief description of what they're going to do on stage. During the convention, a lot of times there's a rehearsal. So just like a theater show, a stage show, people have the chance to at least run through and figure out their positions on stage and, you know, the lighting cues and such. So a lot of international contests that I've seen are set up as craftsmanship and performance-based contests. So that is the World Cosplay Summit. It is the largest, most involved international contest. The finals are held in Japan, and these days, I think this year they have over 30 countries competing. So each country holds their own preliminaries, and then there will be a winning duo selected to represent that country, and they will go to Japan during I think it's August, at the beginning of August, and compete in the World Cosplay Summit. Some people like to call it the Olympics of cosplay. You know, it's a televised, it's a pretty big competition. It's actually supposed to say Crown Cosplay Championship, not Grand. I don't know why I wrote that. So the Crown Cosplay Championship is what C2E2 put up, and they have had this contest in place since 2014. And it is an international contest because all ReedPop events around the world, they hold a preliminary there, and a winner representing that country will be sent to C2E2 and compete for the title of the Crown Cosplay Champion. So tomorrow night, you will not only see the domestic contest for the US champion, but immediately following that will be the international contest, and there will be people from all over the world. I think there will be about 9 other countries coming to compete. I believe this is one of the most, how do you say, it's one of the most involved international contests. I really feel for the contestants. I think that they have to work very hard because all of the work or all of the points are divided to craftsmanship. So there's not really a way for them to show any other aspect of their skills except how they made the costume. So I'm already really nervous to be a judge for tomorrow, but I also really look forward to it. Then you have contests like CSAF, where the finals are held in Japan, in China. CSAF is in China. The European Cosplay Gathering is the largest European contest, and those finals are held at Japan Expo in Paris. Yamato Cosplay Cup is, I think, held in Brazil. Euro Cosplay is in London. C4 is in Amsterdam, Netherlands, and the Global Easter Cosplay is held in Montreux, Switzerland. So as you can see, a lot of these contests, they require a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of people to be very dedicated to put them up and to not only set the rules in place, but to make sure that they can wrangle all of the winners and all of the representatives for each of the divisions. They're very exciting. A lot of times the final prize is either a lot of money or a trip somewhere international. Like it's very funny. In Europe, it's like either you go to Japan, you get a free trip to Japan, or in the US, you get a free trip to Japan. But then also you get, some of the contests, the grand prizes have been a free trip to Dragon Con, like the United States, or I think like New York Comic Con or something. So it's kind of interesting to see like what cosplayers aspire to in different countries and what kind of prizes are attractive to them. But a lot of times it's money, which lots of money is definitely very nerve-wracking of a stake. So here I have some pictures of different contests that I've been a part of. This was the announcement for the winners for the 2015 Cosplay Championship. This was the last time I judged the championship, and I was like, my heart was racing throughout the whole night because it's such a huge responsibility to choose, the most deserving costume for this title. This was the Marvel cosplay contest. So Marvel holds a contest just at their stage at New York Comic Con and San Diego Comic Con, and I think they're doing one here as well at C2E2 this year. And this is a typical example of a fashion show contest where anybody can sign up. You can come as long as you're in a Marvel costume. You can come across the stage and have fun, and it's very inclusive, very community-driven, where it's not so much about like, oh, only the best, most elaborate costumes win. It's more like, do you embody the character in that moment? So I really enjoy judging those as well. This is the Global Easter Cosplay in Switzerland, and those are all cosplayers from different countries that have come to represent those countries and compete together. And I find those types of international contests really great as a cultural exchange. So it's single entries only, and each of the cosplayers, bring sort of their unique flavor, their unique style and culture with them. You have someone from Indonesia, from France, from Russia, from the United States, from Spain, and Thailand, Poland. So in the end, you have like this mesh of cultural exchange. And these people, they will befriend each other, and then they will stay in touch afterwards. And, they really help bring cosplay closer, I think, on a global level. So, of course, a big question is, how are these contests judged? So this is the judging panel for the TwitchCon cosplay contest, and it was also a craftsmanship-based contest, and the grand prize was $15,000. So it was like very important for us to, pay close attention and to, it's a huge responsibility as the judges. So generally, the conventions choose the judges just as they create the rules and guidelines for their contest. So we have to follow that. So if the contest says it's a craftsmanship-only contest, then that is what we have to follow. But as a whole, judges should be people that have had personal experiences with making costumes, with entering competitions, and with doing performances, as well as, obviously the craftsmanship aspect. I think it's important for judges to have had the experience of entering competitions so they know what the contestants are going through, because it's very involved. It's something that you work for months on, and then when you get to the convention, most of your time is devoted to the contest, because you have to get ready, you have to be prepared for the judging, then you have to be prepared for your call time for the stage show, and any rehearsals. So because I started my cosplay life as a competitor, I have a very strong connection to competitors, because I know how tiring can be. How you are standing around and you are in pain, or you have to go to the bathroom and you can't, or you are thirsty. So it's like, I always want to make sure that the contestants are taken care of. And so a huge part of the wait, sorry, I'm too far. So I think there's a misconception that judges are there to kind of lord over you, and I'm here to tell you that if you enter a contest, know that it is about you. The judges are there to support you. At least they should be. So you're the person who is going on stage, who is, putting themselves out there and entering this competition. So they should make sure that your needs are met. So don't be afraid of judges, okay? Like that's one thing I really want to instill in people in cosplay, is that we are your cheerleaders. We are the ones that want you to succeed the most. And our job is just to make sure that we pay attention to all of the different aspects, and then award the people that are the most deserving, that have put the most effort into it, or have just, were able to meet the criteria as the best for this contest. And on that note, let's talk about skill divisions. So this is the most, how do you say, the most common way that skill divisions are put forth. And I think it's something that's very important, because you have people joining contests from so many different experiences. And you really shouldn't put someone who's never made a costume before against somebody who has won several best in shows, So that's why you have the novice, journeyman, and master division. Because cosplay these days, the landscape is so wide, sometimes you'll have someone who's never entered a contest and never won an award, but has been making costumes for years. So they might show up with something that's very refined and maybe also not befitting the division of a novice. In those cases, sometimes the judges are allowed to bump someone to another division, bump them up. Like, you can never bump someone down, but you can bump someone up if it makes sense. So that's, again, if you have involved judges, people that care about the contest, they can make those decisions and make sure that you have at least somewhat of an even playing field, amongst your skill. So if you have decided to enter a contest, especially let's talk about, the Grand Cosplay Championship. I feel like this is a contest that a lot of people aspire to enter one day. They require advanced signups. They require actually for you to apply to be a part of the contest, and then they choose whether or not to accept your costume. That all sounds very elite and kind of scary. So I'm here just to tell you that, it's more about whether or not your costume suits the need of the convention. It has nothing to do with whether you're a good cosplayer or not, okay? So it's like if you have tried to apply for a contest and they denied you, that just means that it didn't fit their criteria. So don't be discouraged. Definitely enter a contest if you can. Most contests will not ask you to apply. They will just accept you if you have signed up in time and followed all their guidelines. And once you've been accepted into a contest, then you will receive an email with instructions on how to prepare for it, what you need to bring. And this is just my guideline for you. So this is what I think as a contestant you should always bring to every contest that you enter. And as even if they don't ask for it, this is only going to help you. So of course, familiarize yourself with the contest rules. If they say like you cannot swing a sword on stage, or there will be certain rules in place that are regarding safety. Sometimes also family rating. Don't show up naked, basically. Apparently, this has happened like 20 years ago or something. So. Of course, then once you have your instructions, be on time for judging. And this is that is if you have a very elaborate costume, depending on when judging is, that does sometimes mean you have to get up early and be prepared. That is why it's good to have a test run, to see how long it takes you to get into the costume. But being on time is very important, not just for the judges or the contest, but for yourself as well, because then you won't be crazy stressed, Definitely, I suggest bringing a reference image of your character as well as in-progress images of your costume as you're making it. And that is simply to show the judges what you were going for, and also for them to kind of understand, how these pieces came together. I think progress pictures are really nice. You don't have to have a huge binder or something. Even having it on your phone or on an iPad or just a few printed out collages is totally enough. But it's just to show them, hey, I made this. And then when you are in the judging, it most likely is going to go pretty fast. It's going to be between a minute to 5 minutes, depending on the contest and how many people they have, which means that you should be proactive. Don't wait for the judges to call you, don't say that. Don't wait for the judges to ask you questions. Come up, be confident, say, this is my character, I made this costume, and just start explaining how you made it, because that's what we're gonna ask anyway. We just wanna know how you made it. So, maybe rehearse a little bit on, what you're gonna say about each part of your costume. I say go from head to toe, or, from foot to head. However, just this is how I made this, and this is how I made this. This is the material I used for that. And that way you give us a quick but comprehensive overview of how the outfit came together. And I think that is just very important for us to understand all the work that you put into, so that we don't miss anything. And I say have fun because you will be spending a lot of time with other cosplayers while you are waiting to go in for the judging or waiting to go on stage. You're gonna have moments where it's not just gonna be super stressed, and try to enjoy those moments. Make friends with people, ask them ooh, this is really cool, how did you make that? Use that chance to learn. This is your chance to spend time with your peers and make friends. I really want to reiterate this, that we are your biggest cheerleaders. I want I want contestants to be able to see judges as people that are there to understand you the most. Like, the audience may not be able to see all of the stitching that you did on this outfit or all of the detailing that you sculpted into this armor from 50 feet away, but we as judges, we can see it. We can see what you put into it. So rely on us, tell us how you made these things and what was difficult on it, what you enjoyed, and just know that we will be there to support you. And for me, I feel like competitions were always the opportunity for myself to challenge myself. It was never about winning, especially since, after I started competing fairly frequently, I started winning a lot. But the prizes were not money or trips to Japan. They were just like random DVDs from, a dealer that donated them, or it was like just like a piece of paper that said, hey, best in show, blah. So it was never about like what you can actually win, but it was for me like, how can I challenge myself after I'd made this costume? How can I, learn a new skill and do something else? And I really cherished the time that I spent with all the other competitors behind stage. Like I thought those were times where I really made friends and exchanged information and then stayed in touch with them afterwards. So it's like the experience of competing is worth doing. So even if you may feel like you don't have a competitive bone in your body, it is another way to experience what cosplay is. And who doesn't want that? Like, this is a very unique, cool, different thing that we do. Why shouldn't you explore and experiment all the different parts of it? So I think that competitions as a whole are worth experiencing. And yeah, I hope that maybe you will. So I've gone through this pretty quickly because I wanted to have time for some questions. So right off the bat, do we have any questions? Did I go too fast on some aspect, or do you want me to reiterate or elaborate on something? Or do you have a question about like something that you've experienced or a competition that you want to enter? Mm-hmm. Yes.
I was wondering, is it a big deal if you had like a collaborative effort? Like, let's say I did all the stitching.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, oh yes, okay, collaborative effort. What if he did all the stitching on his outfit, but somebody helped him on another piece like a gauntlet? Be honest. Honestly, it's not a problem that you got help. As long as the costume is homemade, I think it is, in every contest that I have been a part of, it's completely accepted for you to not have personally 100% made the outfit. And it doesn't mean that you have to like make your wig or cobble your own shoes or anything. Like, just be honest and tell the judges how it was put together. If you got help from someone, tell us. If a piece was bought, tell us. Honesty is so important. And I'll tell you that's because the judges, like, we know if something wasn't made by you. Like we, like I will ask, I don't know, I just inevitably ask questions, and use terms. And if the entrant does not respond to the term, I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe you didn't use a serger, even though it is obviously a serged seam. So I think it's just be honest and be relaxed and just come in and just really give us the rundown on how it came together. Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Yes? Great question. What are some of the details that I look for? So this is sort of a, what judges look for, hopefully, is a grade of execution. So we have costumes from so many different genres that are made with so many different materials and techniques. And the big debate for a while has been, how do you judge a full suit of armor against a sewn dress? They use completely different techniques. You know, they have completely different aesthetics. And so how can a judge weigh what is more important? Thankfully, contests such as the Crown Cosplay Championship, they have set in place categories. So instead of doing skill divisions, C2E2 actually chose to do genre divisions. So they have the sewn category and the armor category. They even have a effects category for, you know, special effects such as prosthetics or lights, you know, body painting such as, you know, things like that, to hopefully, you know, be able to divide up some of these insane skill levels. But then, based on the top, we still have to choose an overall champion. So very difficult, first of all, very, very difficult. So what I end up defaulting to as a judge has always been, I look at what the contestant was trying to achieve. I look at what they actually were able to achieve, how clean they were able to achieve it, and how well was executed. And I try to look at the skill levels completely objectively away from each other. So that means that if you chose to make a dress, then you have to, within the parameters of sewing, have executed these line seams, whatever appliques, as well as possible. And so within dress making, within sewing, there are certain rules, such as ironing your seams open, or, you know, adding certain stabilizing elements such as interfacing or boning and whatever. And a well-rounded judge will know what these elements are for both sewing and for both armor making, and for 3D printing, and for woodworking, whatever. And so I think that's why it's very important for conventions to choose judges that are experienced themselves and that have, you know, have been in the community long enough, that are proactive enough to keep up with these techniques and these trends. So that, first of all, is, you know, very important. Sometimes conventions will end up choosing judges from different fields because it's kind of impossible to expect every judge to know everything. So they'll choose someone from the prop making field, then they'll choose someone who is a master seamstress, and hopefully they can give their opinions on certain outfits and be able to explain to the other judges, well, actually this was, you know, very difficult to do in the realms of 3D printing because they did this and this and this and this. So judging the deliberations is always a discussion. It's always, you know, a back and forth. It's not just a vote. It's not just like we just go, well, I want this person to win. Like, no, it's like, definitely there's an exchange backstage. We talk about, you know, what we liked, what we thought was really important, that they, you know, which aspects they hit. And then we end up comparing and, you know, sometimes argue. But it's good, it's good. That means that we're passionate. Specifically, if there's a advice that I can give you for wanting to enter, I think it's actually, you know, and this is me being very real here, I'm gonna be very real. I think you have to, first of all, choose a competition costume. So to enter a contest, if your goal is, you know what, I want to experience this, I want a chance at winning, it would be nice to win something, I'm going to spend a lot of money and time on this, then you have to take your time and choose a costume that has a chance. And I'm not saying you should choose a character that you don't care about. I'm saying that I believe, you know, after making 350 costumes, I think it's possible to choose a character that you connect with, that you like, that, you know, you aspire to be, but that also is challenging craftsmanship-wise. So you have to, you know, search a little harder, think a little harder on, you know, which of the characters that I want to be would be a good competition costume. And by choosing a costume that incorporates a few different elements, you have a better chance of winning, I believe. Like if your costume incorporates sewing, but as well as armor work, as well as jewelry work, as well as maybe a prop, you know, then you have more range to show us your skills. At the same time, you also up your stakes. So you up your risk level, because if you make a costume that requires you to learn 10 different skills, then your risk level is really high that something will go wrong and you will stress yourself out or you will fail on some experiment. So for every contest, it's sort of that risk-reward question. You have to ask yourself, how much am I willing to risk, to possibly gain? And this is something that I struggled with as a competitor. I believe that every competitor, even veteran cosplayers, struggle with, because you never know. You never know what somebody else is going to bring to the contest, and you can never go into a contest expecting to win. But that is where I think the challenge is to yourself, where if you make a costume for a contest, you're going to make sure that your seams are cleaner, that your finishing on your suit of armor is cleaner, that the painting looks nice up close as well as from far away. Maybe you'll make sure that your undersuit is also nice and not just, a randomly bought piece or something. So that is where I think contests are really positive, because it challenges you and it sort of forces you to think harder on how you can become a better craftsman. So it's not easy, but you see these people do it every year, and you see people really outdoing themselves, and achieving really incredible feats, and I really admire that. Yes?
We've seen a lot of trends in cosplay come up, especially in recent years, with like all the new craftsmen with foam and like the lighting effects. What do you think are the next big trends in cosplay?
The next big trends in cosplay. I think it has a lot to do with the materials available. I think, we have become we've become very blessed with our material range, as well as the range of education that we've had in cosplay. And the trends that you're seeing with EVA foam and lights and thermoplastics, that is because the information is being passed around. And so the next trend, first of all, could be anything, could be something completely unexpected. I recently saw a thread go viral about 3D printing on fabric. So you can 3D print textures and scales and things directly onto fabric. And that could definitely open up a lot of interesting elements. I think 3D printing in general, as it becomes more accessible, more available to people, that you'll see more parts of costumes 3D printed. But that doesn't automatically mean that it's advanced technically or something. Like, there's also a lot of rules, and not rules, but I should say elements within 3D printing that you have to follow and you have to execute in order to make it look, as nice as possible. I think now that fabrics and patterns are becoming more accessible, we hopefully will see an increase in fabric costumes. I would like to eventually see a good mesh between armor and fabric. I want costumes to no longer fill one category or the other. And I want cosplayers to no longer feel like, well, I'm just a I'm just a sewing, seamstress cosplayer, or, well, I don't know how to sew and I won't go near that, I'm just gonna make armor. I want people to learn different skills and start being able to bring those skills together in their projects. And I just wanna see more well-rounded, materials and techniques being used. That is what I hope for the future. But you never know. That's what's exciting. I see a hand in the back. Yes?
Is there a lot of sketching that goes into your process? Like, do you have an overall thought of the process like when you put a costume together?
Yes. Is there a lot of sketching that goes into, each of my costumes? I do a lot of sketching. I feel like by drawing something out, it really helps you understand the different elements. And I also draw out, what I might think, could be separate pieces. And that's really what it is. Like if you have a very elaborate costume, you have to break it down into smaller, manageable projects. And then you just think about how to assemble everything and attach everything together. But it's definitely, it's a multimedia project, if you think about it. It's like we are working in mediums that that other people would never think about, and we're like, first of all, using materials in unconventional ways, and then at the same time, we are keeping certain age-old, passed down art forms alive. There are people who cobble their shoes or, do millinery for their costumes. And sometimes those arts are, slowly being lost. But we as cosplayers, we go through and we're like, find them and we like find new ways to use them. And I think that's incredibly exciting. And I hope that in general, in the costuming industry, and the Hollywood will eventually recognize that we are sort of these like tricks of all trade artists that we're able to create by ourselves something that, may take a whole studio, like 50 people to do. We just take a bit longer, to make it. But yeah, I'm very proud of cosplayers in general, and especially in competitions, to see what they're willing to put forth, and to how they're able to create these things. It's very inspiring for me as well. All right, any other questions? I feel like I went through my presentation too far. Anybody who wants to know more about a specific contest, like is there like a contest in your hometown that you want to enter, or do you want to know more about the Crown Cosplay Championship, or do you want to just know more about cosplay in general? We can also do that. Yes?
I've seen before, you every once in a while when you're seeing these contests, you see the poor soul that you know has spent thousands of hours putting it into the contest, and perhaps the judges have seen the costume beforehand. If there's a malfunction on stage, does that somehow apply to the judging?
Oh, that's a good question. First of all, I would ask convention if it applies, like if they think it applies at all, based on their rules. And sometimes, like, I feel like if it's a craftsmanship-based contest, it doesn't necessarily apply. However, it depends on if it was an accident. Like, I would want to know like how it happened. Like, was it an accident? Somebody, like, did the costume get broken in transport? Or was it because it just, the attachment system failed? In which case, that's a craftsmanship issue. But I feel like, for the most part, those are very out of the norm situations, and they would have to be handled delicately, because the cosplayer, yeah, like they would be devastated, and I wouldn't want them to think that just because of one mishap, they've lost the entire chance of winning the contest or something. But also a good contest will have a variety of awards, and not just like 2 or 3 awards to give out. Like, maybe they would win something, like it really depends. Like maybe they would win a different award. It's like when it comes down to I feel like the best in show is always difficult to choose for each contest. And when I judge, I like to select the winners backwards. I like to go from the biggest award first and then go down, so that whoever won the best in show, like they're taken care of. Like maybe we can look at somebody else for the 2nd place and then for the 3rd place and such, and just ensure that as many people as possible get credited and awarded something. So, but yeah, it's always a risk. It happened to me too. It really has. And, yeah, and I thought when my mishap happened that that was it. Like, I forget the contest, you know. But I saw your hand up, maybe?
What advice do you have for someone who wants to get into cosplaying?
What advice do I have for someone who wants to get into cosplay? Well, first of all, it's very overwhelming, so bless you all for wanting to cosplay. I think if I were to get into cosplay now, like if I had never done it before, it would be incredibly daunting because basically everything has been done, everything great has been done, everything funny and cool and, you know, ridiculous has been done. So how do you enjoy yourself and how do you set yourself apart? But then maybe the question is not about setting yourself apart. Maybe it's just being a part of it. So I think my suggestion for anyone wanting to get into cosplay in this environment is take advantage of what's out there already, all of the things that we agonized over for years and then figured out. Take advantage of that. You know, like you can access good quality materials. You can access patterns and templates. You have, you know, the options to buy tutorial books or follow online tutorials or even follow, you know, a cosplayer streaming on Twitch on how they make their costumes. So take advantage of it, soak it in, you know, be a part of it in that sense. And then think of how you would fit in. How would you like to enjoy this? Because I think cosplay is a fandom in itself. You know, like we enjoy all of these different fandoms, and at some point, the fandoms drive us to participate in it. So whether it is that we end up collecting merchandise, or you know, we end up posting reviews, or we end up starting like online discussions, or we do fan art of our characters, that's a way for us to participate in that fandom. And for cosplay, I think it's the same way. Like, you know, how can you participate in it that gives you joy? So if you want to, like, technically, anything you want to know is there. It just takes your drive and your motivation to go out and seek that information. And I think the best way is to choose a character that you feel a connection with. Not a character that you feel like you look like or, you know, that fits you physically, but a character that you love and that you can, you know, mentally see yourself becoming. And I think that is where, you know, sort of the magic lies, where you hold on to this character's, this love for this character, and then you go out and find a way to bring that character to life. And you can do your own, you know, put your own spin on it. Like, it doesn't have to be a super accurate representation, because this is also about creativity. And then, you know, this is how you can see mashups happening, alternate universe cosplays, undead versions, you know, we have, well, not undead versions, but, and from the comic version, like, you went out and were very creative in how you represented Rick. So I think that is where the fun is, you know. So yeah, it's like the foundation has to be your love for this fandom. So I don't know if that makes sense or if that helps. Because I feel like there's not a way I can tell you, like, step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3, do this, step 4, become an awesome cosplayer. Like, that doesn't really exist anymore. You know, maybe once upon a time I could have said that, and, you know, maybe once a time I followed something, but it was like within myself, like, well, I want to make this costume next, and I want to do this next, until, like, at some point I checked off all the list on my dream list of what I wanted to do. And so now I'm like, I need to pass it on somehow. So, all right, I think we have time for a couple more questions. Yes? Yes, of course I've seen people ham it up. Yes, I think it's great. I love humorous skits. I love it when it's not always so super crazy serious. I think it's yeah, it's about what you find entertaining, how you can make the audience engage, because really ultimately a contest becomes a stage show. Like you are there, it is in front of an audience. Like we are not just doing the prejudging in a little room and announcing the winners, you know, like we are doing it on a stage with lots of people watching. So when you go out on stage, I think that is the moment where you stop thinking about, oh, how are the judges looking at me? You know, like think about like how you can make the audience entertained. Like, so if you want to go ham it up, do it, you know? I think it's wonderful. Yes, question over here. Yes. There are people that have done that. There are people that have spent $100 and made a giant Gundam cosplay, but it's not necessarily like because the prices keep going down on something. It's more like because there's more information out there, you have more options. So you can choose what materials to use, and there are different costs attached to materials. You know, like thermoplastics are more expensive than foam, but then like casting something out of resin is even more expensive than thermoplastics. But they each serve a function, and I don't think, and I think it's a different conversation on whether you should do everything on a budget, whether it's like, it's not good or bad whether you spend a lot of money on a costume or not that much money. It's more about how you were able to use your resources at hand. You know, like when I started out, I was broke as heck. Very, very broke, just in school. And, you know, I had to make do with my budget. These days, cosplay is my job, and you know, it's like I have a lot more access to materials. I'm able to invest a lot more in it, and that is good as well. But it doesn't mean that, you know, my way is the best way, or you know, just because I chose the most luxurious fabrics, my costume is better or something. So I think it's a personal question, and it's always good to be frugal and save and just be clever, think outside the box. You know, that's once again, like, think about how you can make something, do research on what materials cost, you know, where you can possibly get these materials. Sometimes, depending on what you put in the like search bar, you know, you get like various different results. I switch up my keywords a lot when I look for things, just to see what will pop up. So it's good. It's good to be frugal, but not necessarily is all the pricing going to go down. I would like that too, by the way. So. Yes, Rick.
Once you get a show-ready costume, is it kosher to do it to multiple cons, or do you suggest a different costume?
Good question. Once you've made a show-worthy costume, can you wear it and compete in multiple contests? I see that happening a lot, and I think most conventions don't have a problem with it because realistically, if you've spent like, you know, a year or 6 months working on a costume, we can't expect you to make a new one for every contest. So I do believe that it's totally okay to reuse a costume as long as the convention allows it. There are some conventions, you know, such as the really large international cons that don't want you to compete twice in their contest. So like if you have, you know, I believe that is true. My God, please don't, I hope it's true, but I've never seen a competitor at the Grand Cosplay Championship enter another year in the same costume. You know, usually it would be a new costume, something like maybe they remade the costume but made it from scratch to, you know, be a better version. If you know, I think it's important to continue improving upon your costume. I think it's kind of like after a while, don't you feel like it's boring to win awards with the same costume again and again? Like, you know, for your own sake, I think it's nice and challenging to try something new and make something new, or at least add on to your costume and improve upon it. But that is, again, like to each their own, for sure. Like, I don't know. I saw another hand. Yes, sir. Yes, you. Mm-hmm.
Hi, so I was wondering, has there ever been like a case of someone making a cosplay and saying it's their own, but someone else made it? Is there any ever rules to kind of circumvent that whole thing happening?
Yes, yes. He asked if there's been a time when someone lied about having made their costume. Yes, it happens fairly often. I think a lot of times it happens because the competitor is nervous. They're nervous about, you know, oh God, I'm not, you know, not good enough to enter this contest because this part is not made by me. And then so in that moment, they're just like, sure, I made it. But first of all, the truth usually comes out. And there's no reason to, like, there's no shame in not making something. I do believe conventions usually have a rule set in place that you'll be disqualified if it's found out that you didn't make your costume, because it would be against their rules. I personally, I've encountered it enough, but it's like, at that point, it's not about like pointing fingers and say, you did this thing. Like, it's about just gracefully, you know, letting them like still enjoy the experience. And, you know, they just may not be considered as high up in my book for the award because they didn't make everything and somebody else did, you know, like the way of awarding someone is not to say, oh, this person did worse than you. It's to say, well, you went the extra mile, you know? So it's like there's a positive mindset behind awarding prizes, is that this person out of everyone put the most effort, the most time, executed their outfit the most, you know, flawlessly, so they deserve this award. So in the end, of course, there'll always be someone left out that I still feel like would have deserved an award, but we ran out of awards. Like, it happens. It's like you run out of awards, you can't give everybody something. And so, which is, once again, like, you shouldn't think that you did something wrong if you didn't win something. So, yeah. All right, 5 minutes. I want to hear from someone I haven't yet. Yes, you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah. Definitely, yes. Don't ruin your fabrics. Although I have totally ruined my fabrics in the past. So she's switching to sewing on a sewing machine after hand sewing for a long time. So first of all, congratulations, making the leap. Sewing machines are actually very helpful tools. Don't be afraid of them. I see a lot of people who are just like, it's scary. And I'm like, no, it's helpful. It's like, it makes you work faster. And honestly, sewing machines follow the directions. And sewing is a very, like, you know, it's very straightforward. It's just patience, and it can be boring sometimes. Even I find sewing, like following directions and sewing like patterns, I'm like, this is so boring, and this is like so many steps. But there is a reason for every single step. So follow them if you can, and you know, there are different, you know, tensions and stitches and even needle types for different fabrics, different feet. So as you know, start sewing more, you'll start to learn those things. That's how I learned to sew, is by doing. You know, it's not like I took a course and then knew everything about sewing. No. So I think because you're already used to hand sewing, you are, you know, you're already a step ahead of you know, someone who's never done it before. As for how to not ruin your fabrics, make mock-ups. Just simply make a mock-up with a cheap remnant fabric. I buy, you know, clearance fabrics in whatever crazy patterns, and I don't care, as long as they're similar in weight and feel to the fabrics that I'm going to use for my actual costume, and then I make mock-ups out of them. A lot of people just get muslin or something. But that's really the key, is to make a test piece, basically, that you can draw on, do all of your alterations on, markings on, and then once that fits you, use that as your pattern for the nice fabrics. Okay, I will take one last question, and that's it. Yes, yes, I hear from the ponies. Very nice.
Kind of curious about if someone has been working on from other patterns, that they buy a pattern, alter it to fit what they're looking for. What resources would you recommend for someone wanting to learn how to pattern draft themselves, make their pattern?
Make their own patterns. There are books out there. There are pattern drafting books. And really, you would then also possibly, I would recommend doing a drafting class if you have a college or some sort of school near you. I wonder, I think there are online courses like Craftsy, or other courses that you can pay and then watch a video on how to drape. But I don't see anything wrong with using existing patterns and putting them together. I think it's there to help you, you know, so there's no shame in it. But if you wanted to draft your own, I think the best way to start is to get a book and then to look into online courses, because it is a certified skill, so it's not something that you can just kind of experiment. Although maybe you can, but for me, yeah, I had to definitely read on books and look around for that type of information. So, but yes, kudos to you. Yeah, go after it. Very nice. All right. Well, on that note, we're out of time. So thank you again for coming and joining me, you know, on this Friday morning. So if you have any more questions, I will be at the Bernina booth, which is 977, from like 11:30 on, and yeah, 11:30, 11:45, whenever I make it over there. And so come on by, and then tomorrow I'm judging the contest for the most part, but I'll post on my social media if I have any time to be at the booth. But I'll see you guys around. Thank you.